All right, so I want to start off by saying, unfortunately, I'm going to have to keep my camera off while I'm sharing my screen just because I don't have the most stable internet connection here. But while I'm starting to share my screen, I know I saw my cooperating teacher, Mr. Brown, is here. My mom, Amy, is on. My roommates, Emily and Rebecca. And I saw that my ag teacher, Mrs. Fry, got a chance to log on as well. So I'd like to thank them, but everyone for coming, really. So to get started here, the first question is, who do I aspire to be as an ag teacher? So to answer that question, we really have to start at the beginning with how I decided on ag ed in the first place. I didn't really come from an agriculture background necessarily. I took an intro to agriculture class my freshman year of high school with Mrs. Fry, who's on the call. And that's really where I discovered that I had a passion for both agriculture and FFA. Agriculture education really changed my life in high school. I came into it really shy. I was at a school that was pretty new to me still. I didn't have a ton of friends, but it really helped me to find my place, find a friend group that supported me, and find confidence in myself. Whenever it got to the end of my high school career and I had to start thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, I was at a loss because I had no clue what I wanted to do. I'm sure my mom could attest to that. I have so many varied interests. I'm into a little bit of everything, so it was really hard to decide what I wanted to do. I looked into elementary education, psychology, forensic science. There was truly not one path I was looking to go down. And one day my ag teacher sat me down and said, I think this is something that you could be really good at. Why don't you look into ag ed? And I probably looked at her like she had three heads because I thought she was crazy. I thought there was no way I could do what my ag teachers did. I'd put them up on this high pedestal and I thought that it was such an unattainable thing for me. There's no way I could do what they did. But eventually I came around and I decided on ag ed. So here I am today at Penn State. There were definitely times along the way that I second guessed myself, wondered if I was making the right decision, but I always came back to that high schooler that I was when I entered high school, and the student that didn't have confidence, didn't know who they were, and I want to be able to make a difference in the lives of my students like my ag teachers did for me. So something that is really important is classroom management. So these are the three posters that I'm going to have hanging in the classroom while I'm teaching. Starting off with the procedures, upon arriving, I want students to sit in their seat, take out a writing utensil and a notebook, so that's pretty standard. Complete any posted bell work. My plan is to always have bell work for the students, but I know that some days I might be running behind, cleaning up from a lab, stuck in the shop, doing something. So if there's no bell work posted, I want them to use their devices to find an article about a current issue in agriculture that we can discuss as we begin class, just to keep them busy and get them ready for class on the right track. I'm also going to be utilizing something known as parking lot questions, which I just learned about this year, and I'm so glad I did. So this is an opportunity for kids, if they're nervous and don't want to interrupt me while I'm speaking, don't feel comfortable or confident asking questions, they can just write the question down on a little piece of paper and tape it to the board at the end of class, and we will come back to the question. That way they do get it answered. Or if we're just having a really fast-paced, busy class, and we don't necessarily have time to ask or answer a ton of questions, that's what that is there for as well. My expectations, I want my students to show respect to their peers, myself, and themselves especially. Stay on task, complete and submit assignments on time. Coming to class prepared and ready to learn is really important for me. And raising their hand whenever they want to share, just so that no one's speaking over each other and everyone feels respected. I'm using a 3-strike system for consequences, which obviously no one wants to give consequences. We all want it to be hunky-dory the whole time, but that's not very realistic. So strike 1 is just going to be a simple verbal warning. Strike 2 would be a meeting with the teacher. Strike 3, their guardian's going to be contacted, and any further offenses, I'm unfortunately going to have to take to the administration, which is something I hope that I don't have to do. So for my ideal program, my ideal curriculum, I would want all students to start with an introduction to agriculture class. I think students often don't know exactly what ag entails. It's so wide, there's so many topics to cover. And by having all students start in that introduction to agriculture class, they can get a taste of everything that ag has to offer and see what they might be most interested in and what path they might want to go down. I would want to have 4 main pathways: agricultural mechanics, FFA leadership, plant science, and animal science courses. And then also I would want to offer environmental and natural resources, wildlife and fisheries sciences, and food science. So I truly want to make sure that in my program, I have a class that is going to interest any student. Anyone can find something that they're passionate about. Just a breakdown of the units for the Introduction to Plant Science class, I would be covering history of plant science, plant life, plant cells, genetics, plant processes, so that would include things like photosynthesis, climates and ecosystems, soil science, and native plants, which is something that I am very excited about. So we were all tasked with finding a project for each student that would be less than $15 to create. So something that I chose was a string art project. I wanted to find something that was going to be really accessible for kids, whether we are in school or virtual. This is something that they can adapt to do at home pretty easily, pretty inexpensive materials, and they can also substitute materials, which is really convenient. Also, kids get to be creative and they get to choose whatever they want to make as an image on their board, as a word, and it's really adaptable to ability level as well. So you can really meet students where they're at. If a student needs more of a challenge, they can choose a more challenging image, something that's going to take them a little longer. Or if a student is not really confident, not really able to complete a really intricate task, they can choose something a little bit easier. So that's something that I really liked about this task. I think the students would enjoy as well. So SAE is one of the circles in the 3-circle model, and it's really important. I feel like it's something that's not hit on enough, something I'm a little nervous about integrating. So it's something I really want to focus on heavily. It's sometimes hard to get students involved in SAEs. They tend to resent AET. I know in high school, I was not a fan of AET. I didn't really see the point of SAE immediately. It was just something that I was doing because I had to do it, I felt like sometimes. So I think if you really focus on the monetary aspect of SAE, show kids that you can make money off of winning awards for your proficiencies or getting grants from National FFA to expand your SAE, it's a really good way to get them interested and involved, because what teenager doesn't want to make a couple extra dollars? I want to put a spotlight on successful SAEs that we've had in our program, especially ones that have continued on after the person graduated high school, because I think it's a good way to show the students that, hey, this isn't something that is just short term. You can really think long term and see how this can continue into your adult life, how this can continue to help you. I want to show students that there are opportunities in the classroom to get involved with their SAE. I know myself, I didn't necessarily have facilities to use for an SAE because I didn't grow up on a farm myself. So I mostly did placement SAEs in high school. But especially with the SAE for All model, I want students to understand that they can use the greenhouse, they can use the labs in the classroom if they're interested in doing a research SAE. It's not all on them to find facilities for this to take place. We're really there to support them. And I also want to start all of my students on exploratory SAEs as soon as I can, so they can really get comfortable with AET and get comfortable with SAE before diving in completely. I also want to utilize regular check-ins with the students to make sure that they're on the same track, or the right track, that we're all on the same page. I know what's going on with them. If they need help, I can catch that early on. If there's issues, I can maybe help them think through those things. And one way I could do this is by having the FFA check-ins on Fridays, like I know a lot of schools do. FFA was probably my favorite part of the 3-circle model when I was in high school. It's one of the big reasons I chose Ag Ed, because I thought, well, who doesn't want to do FFA for life? So I really want to focus on recruitment and retention, especially students that might not look like the typical FFA member. I want to really make sure that I am bringing in diverse populations into the program, that everyone feels accepted and welcome. And I want my population of my chapter to reflect that of the population of the school. I really want to focus on diversifying SAEs and CDE, LDE participation with students. I know in high school, I participated in just about every CDE that my ag teachers would let me. So I think that's going to come in handy for me whenever I'm teaching, because I've had my hand in a lot of pots. I know about a lot of the SAE or CDE's work in general, and also students being able to see that SAEs don't have to be on a farm, or you don't have to show a dairy cow. I think it's really valuable for them. I want to focus on community involvement and specifically service opportunities within the community for my FFA members. I want them to be able to get involved, start expanding their network, and just being able to help others, I think, is a really rewarding experience, especially for a high school student that might not see yet how they can make a difference in the world. And I also want to take my FFA members to any conference and any convention that I can, because I think that's where a lot of growth happens, especially for these students that are from a really rural area and don't get to get out a lot, don't get to travel or experience diversity. It's a great thing for them to be able to experience. So my cohort member, Maddie Benson, and I made a recruitment video, a mock recruitment video. That link is in the handout if you're interested in watching the whole video, but we're just going to watch a little snippet here.
Fighting a mummy, you're climbing up the Eiffel Tower, discovering something that doesn't exist, or giving a monkey a shower. Surfing tidal waves, creating nanobots, or locating Frankenstein's brain. Finding a dodo bird, painting a continent, or driving our sister insane. As you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff to do before school starts this fall. Come on, Barry! So stick with us, cause Phineas and Ferb.
All right, and as I said, the link to the whole video is in the handout, and the link for the handout should be in the chat. Community integration. So I think that getting your community involved in your program is so important. The first way I want to do that is by bringing in lots of guest speakers. I'm not always going to be the expert. I'm not always going to have all the answers. In fact, I'm probably rarely going to have all the answers. So bringing in guest speakers that know a lot more on specific subjects than I do is a great experience for the students. And it's also a good experience for them to see careers that they may be interested in. I also want to offer community education workshops. I think that's a good way to have community-based units of instruction. Giving your students that opportunity to take what they're learning in class and teaching it to others, especially people in the community, is a good way to, one, make sure that they are understanding what you're teaching them, but also whenever you allow a student to take that responsibility, it's going to empower them so much. I also want to give them opportunities to engage with younger students like middle schoolers and elementary schoolers in our area, being able to take what they're learning and bring it down to a lower level for those kids to understand is also going to be really rewarding for them. Involving them in community service projects is something that I talked about earlier, and I also want to make sure that I'm always connecting with people in the community so that I can find more SAE opportunities for my students to participate in. So the second question I'm going to go into is, what experiential education opportunities have I engaged in to become a better agricultural educator? So starting with my coursework here at Penn State, I have quite a few to talk about because I can sometimes be indecisive. As I said, I have a lot of interests, so I really love to learn. I like everything that I've done here. But the first one I want to focus on is ANSI 201. This is a course that I really did not want to take, but everyone told me I should. So eventually I did end up taking it, and I am so glad I did. It was a really challenging course and I gained a lot of knowledge, but really what I think was most helpful for me was the lab section, which didn't seem very challenging, but that was maybe the good thing about it, because a lot of the labs that we did, I feel like I could take into the classroom and I could use with my students. So it was a really good experience to see that. Forestry 303, this was a class that I took that was about herbaceous forest plants, which seems so odd when I signed up for it. I really didn't know why I was taking it, mainly to just check off a plant science credit that I needed, but I ended up finding something that I was really passionate about. It's where I first started to learn about native plants in Pennsylvania. So it was really cool to get that experience and get that knowledge that I hadn't seen before and find something, a new aspect of agriculture that I was truly interested in that I didn't really get to experience in high school. The next class that I want to talk about is my technical writing class, English 202C, which I just finished. Now, this is another class that I was not looking forward to. I didn't see how it was going to benefit me immediately. I thought, well, I'm not going to be writing lab reports. I'm not going to be putting out technical documents. Why do I need to take this class? But it was so very beneficial for me. One of the projects that we did in that class was a technical process description. The link to that project is also in the handout if you want to have a look at it. But I got the opportunity to make a technical document about how small gas engines work, which is something that I already was a little nervous about. So being able to get some more research and put that into an educational format was helpful for me. And it also helped me to figure out formatting stuff. AEE 311, that was our leadership development class, youth leadership. So it really focused highly on FFA and a little bit on SAE. And I found it super beneficial. It was actually the first time that I got to see AET from an instructor standpoint, So it's going to help me that I'm not just completely going in blind whenever I start teaching. AEE 349 and 350 were our Ag Mech courses. I learned so much in those classes. I was so scared to take them, but I'm so glad I did. It was always so much fun. I had great professors and my cohort there to support me. I learned so much, and I can't wait to get into the classroom and teach Ag Mech now because it was just such a good experience. AEE 412, that was our teaching methods class. So this is where I finally got the opportunity to make lesson plans, make unit plans, and utilize them, really put them into practice, get some experience under my belt. And we got to record our teaching lab so I could watch myself back later and see things that I liked and that I didn't like. So it prepared me more for the classroom. In IEE 413, this class really prepared me for my future in teaching. There was a lot that I learned that I know I need to know whenever I actually get into the classroom about program development and everything that goes into it. So that was really valuable because I didn't realize just how much it was going to be. My professional development and certifications. So starting with my certifications, I am Google Educator Level 1 certified. I chose that one because we are in such a digital world now, especially with everything going on with education. I think it's really helpful to keep me organized, and I got to see resources that are available to me. So that was really valuable training. I'm also First Aid and CPR certified and NST MOP instructor certified. Some professional development that I've participated in is the Second Mile Seminar Series. I'm a member of Alpha Tau Alpha, Pennsylvania Association of Agriculture Educators. I got to attend the state conference and one of the regional conferences, which was really valuable experience. And also National Association of Agriculture Educators, which we just recently had the convention for that. It was all online. I got to attend some really cool workshops and also the FAST Symposium. So I got to hang out with other pre-service teachers that are in the same spot that I am from all over the country. And it was really valuable to hear what they're going through. And I think it really helped to show that I'm not alone in what I'm going through. It's not just me and my cohort here. We're all going through the same things. And we got some really valuable talks. One of the experiences that I took advantage of while I was here was domestic study away to Montana. Now, this is probably my favorite memory from Penn State. It was actually my first time flying on an airplane. I got to experience what I get is like on the whole other side of the country, which was so wildly interesting to me because in a lot of ways it was the same, but there were also so many ways that it was different just culturally and the things they were doing. It was really cool to experience. There was a lot of diverse learners, more than I thought there was going to be. We got to go to 2 national parks, and it also just presented a lot of networking opportunities for me. So I was really grateful for that experience. And some additional experiences. I have been a member of Lead Society while I'm here. I was a DSA committee member, the 2020 secretary, and I also organized the 2021 officer team selection, which was probably my most valuable experience that I had from Lead Society. I've worked at Texas Roadhouse since I was 16. And as much as you would think it wouldn't connect, it somehow does. So I work with a lot of high school aged employees, and I work as a trainer and I mentor them. So it was a really good experience to try out some different leadership styles, figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me when I'm working with high school aged employees. And it also taught me to stay calm under pressure. There's been a lot of times, especially when, you know, people are yelling at you, people are upset for various things that you can't really control. And I may be berating them on the inside, but on the outside, you have to be calm, cool, and collected. So this is something I think I can take with me into the classroom, just keeping calm and staying patient. So I started off my Penn State journey at Penn State Mont Alto, actually, and I served there on the Student Activity Fee Allocation Committee. So I got some really cool budgeting experience. It was great to look at, you know, how much money are we starting with? These are all the people putting in applications for receiving money for things they want to do on campus. And they're all great activities, but we can only do so many. There's only so much money. So that was good experience that I think I can take in to budgeting as an FFA advisor. I've also been a member of Agronomy Club, which presented a cool opportunity to volunteer with Pennsylvania FFA and also just network in an area that I wasn't really familiar with. I had never had much knowledge in the area of agronomy. So now I have a lot of friends that know a lot about it. So I have some guest speakers I can pull into the classroom, and I'm more familiar with companies that I'd never heard of before. And then also the Pennsylvania State FFA Convention, I've assisted with the Marketing Plan CDE and the Extemporaneous Public Speaking CDE. So the third and final question is, how am I prepared to maximize my student teaching internship opportunity? So to start off, my cooperating center is Central Columbia High School, which is located in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. It's a 2-teacher department. My cooperating teacher will be Mr. Brown, and I'll also be working some with Mrs. Christy Good. Some strengths of the program that I've seen the time I got to visit was that they have very spacious and modern facilities, which I'm so excited to use. I knew it was a big facility, but I really wasn't expecting what I found when I got there. So I'm so excited to be able to utilize everything they have. There's really overwhelming support from both the community and the administration that's been built up over the years. So that's always good to see. I'm really excited to have that great support network whenever I'm there and have a lot of people to lean into and know that, there's a lot of support there. And also they have a lot of active and involved students. So this is just a little snippet of how I am keeping myself organized for student teaching. This is a screenshot from my Teams page. I have all of the units I'm teaching, all of the lessons that I'm teaching, and it's all hyperlinked together, so I can just click on things and quickly get to my unit plan or my lesson for the day, which is going to be really helpful in keeping me organized and keeping me prepared. And then my personal strengths and weaknesses going into this. So some of my strengths, I like to think I'm a pretty empathetic and understanding person. I'm prepared to really meet students where I'm at. I want to put myself in their shoes, because I think it's important to understand that a student that might be acting out in class or maybe isn't completing their work, it's not just because they're a bad student. Everyone has things going on. I think it's important to be aware of that. I'm also pretty laid back, so I think that will benefit me in keeping calm and collected while I'm there. I have a really wide variety of interests and knowledge, as I've said before, so I think it's really going to help me to connect with students that might be interested in things outside of agriculture and might not see how agriculture is playing a role in their life or how it's valuable to them. And also, I just have a really big passion for agriculture and agriculture education in general. So I'm hoping that that enthusiasm and that passion that I have can rub off on my students and they see how excited I am and it gets them excited as well. In terms of my weaknesses, I still feel a little weak in my ag mechanics content knowledge area. That's definitely something that I want to work on and will get to work on while I'm at Central Columbia. So I'm really excited for that. Classroom management, I can't necessarily say I'm weak in because I haven't practiced it yet, but I'm a little worried about it. So it's something that I'm really conscious of and going to be paying close attention to while I'm there and hopefully getting some feedback and advice. And I'm also a serial procrastinator. But it's definitely something I've been working on over the past few years and getting better at. And I'm just going to continue to work on that and get better, hopefully, as I continue through my student teaching. So that connects to my student teaching goals. I have 3 main goals. My first one is to increase my AgMech content knowledge. Second one is increase classroom management skills. And my final goal is to increase my lesson planning skills, which over the course of this past semester, I've already gotten a chance to improve those so much. I recently opened up a lesson plan that I made at the very beginning of the semester. It was probably in the first 2 weeks of the semester. And I was shocked with how much it has changed. It's crazy to see how in just a few short months, I've gained so many skills and gotten so much better at it. And I'm sure that when I look back at the lesson plans I have now at the end of student teaching, I'm going to be surprised again and think that these ones are terrible. So again, I just want to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch my presentation, and I'm ready for any questions that you might have.
Would please join me in congratulating Alyssa on a job well done. That was a great presentation. We are going to transition now to the Q&A portion. So if you don't mind loading up in the chat box any questions you have, or just raise your hand or acknowledge that you would like for me to recognize you to ask that orally, that's fine. I'm going to start us off, Alyssa, with a recall back to when you were talking about SAEs and sort of non-traditional instruction with your students. Or students from non-traditional backgrounds, and I would like for you to elaborate on that just a bit about how specifically you can help sort of break stereotypes about what ag is and is not for those students who don't come from farming backgrounds or don't come from the agricultural community. How do you build that culture in your classroom that shows what ag is and is not about?
So I really think it starts from the top down. So by really living and exemplifying in yourself to your students that we're going to be accepting of people coming from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, that this isn't just like a good old boys club. And especially if I can show my students that, hey, I didn't come from a farm. That's not the background I came from. I didn't think this would ever be something I'm doing. If they can see that, maybe I can model it for them and they can feel accepted.
Your cohort member Maddie has the first question in the chat box about who have been some influential people on your ag ed journey.
So there have been a lot of people, so many people that have influenced me. I already talked about my ag teacher in my presentation. She really influenced me. I definitely would not be here if she'd never brought it up in the first place. But just being able to see how open and accepting she was to me in high school and how much she changed my life, I really want to model a lot of my behavior off of her. She is an amazing person. And also all of my professors that I've had here at Penn State, I've always felt welcomed, and I've never felt like I had a stupid question, even though some of them probably were stupid. So I've had a lot of people influence me, especially my cohort members as well. I feel like I can learn something from each of them, and they're all amazing women.
I would agree with that. I'm looking back to our faculty panel. What questions do we have? Go ahead, Carson.
Yeah, Alyssa, great presentation. You were prepared and sounded fantastic. So question for you regarding SAEs. In the springtime, a student in your classroom comes up to you and says, Miss Landis, I want to make some money and I want to start my own business. Can you guide me through a little bit of that process that you would go through with that student to establish some goals and to identify their strengths to match them with a business type that they could actually start and manage on their own?
So first, I would want to sit down with the student, and if I am not already familiar with what they're interested in, try to start figuring out what they're interested in, maybe take some sort of career inventory with them, especially through like the one that National FFA has on their website. We could use that, or other ones, just look at like their personality and what things they're interested in. And maybe they already have things in mind, like maybe they are really into lawn care and want to start some sort of landscaping business or something along those lines. And then I think it's also important, after we figure out what direction they want to go in, to talk about, okay, well, here's the responsibilities that go along with this, and here's probably the amount of money you would need to start that sort of business, because it's important to be realistic about it all. Maybe start talking about grants they could apply for, and then start setting smart goals with them.
Great. Your other cohort member, Michaela, asks, what are you most excited for while teaching ag mechanics this spring?
I think the one I'm most excited for is probably arc welding, which I never thought those words would leave my mouth. If you would ask me a few months ago, I would have said that I'm dreading it and I'm so terrified, but I'm actually really excited for it. I have enjoyed doing it in our ag mech class this past fall. It's not as scary as I thought it was. And I know it can be scary for some students. So I think the fact that I used to be worried about it as well can really help them. And I might know how to make them feel a little bit more comfortable going forward.
Dr. Ewing, I think you were ready for a question.
Yes, I am. All right. Alyssa, thought for sure you'd say small gas engines, but that's all right. Arc welding's a good answer as well. Hey, so my question goes back to AE 413 and something that you said in your presentation. You mentioned that the course really opened your eyes to, I guess I would say, like the activities, the other work that teachers, agriculture teachers do to have a successful program. Could you just identify one or two specific things that before you came into this semester, you had no idea that additional workload that ag teachers had to complete? So those extra responsibilities, if you will, that you had no idea about. One or two that stood out to you.
So I think the first one for me was the Chapter 339 evaluations. I mean, I guess I knew there would be some sort of evaluation from Pennsylvania Department of Education, but I didn't realize how involved it was going to be. So I think it's good that I realized how much work's going to go into that, and that it's something I need to be conscious of and paying attention for. and also the advisory committees. I knew there was an advisory committee, but I didn't realize how much of the responsibility kind of came back on the ag teacher to find people in your community that can serve on that committee, and stay involved with them and make sure you're getting good feedback.
All right, thank you. And I'll just toss in there that you are with one of the best folks to help you along those Chapter 339 requirements in terms of cooperating teachers. So Mr. Brown especially will guide you down the right path.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, Dr. Ewing. Beth has a question, I guess in lieu of our absent student question.
Sorry about that, a little harder to unmute than I thought. So at all of our presentations, we've had an undergrad student, Nina, who's been on, who has asked the seniors what piece of advice they would like to give to the undergraduates. So I don't want you to be left out, Alyssa, since she's not here. So what piece of advice to give to our undergraduates who are on?
My biggest advice would be take every single opportunity that you can. I'm definitely someone that sometimes struggles to leave my comfort zone, and opportunities will come my way and I won't take them because I'm scared or there's not someone I know going on that specific trip. But it's really important that you leave your comfort zone, and Penn State has so many opportunities that you can take advantage of. I know I mentioned DSA in my PowerPoint, and that was really a big turning point for me, but there's so many other opportunities you can take and so many opportunities for outreach and networking. So definitely take all of those.
It's sound advice, and for the undergrads that are here in the room, I think that's probably been said 4 of the 6 or 7 times that we've heard that answer. And I would even push it back to the seniors in the room to say, when you all have said that, think to your own experiences in your future classrooms. Just because you don't have the resources of Penn State doesn't mean that you can't provide those for your students, and that sometimes your students need that kick in the butt to actually take advantage of those opportunities. So don't lose sight of that. We tend to just not want to jump off the edge to go take that opportunity, that sometimes your students need those pushes too, in a friendly way that's professional, but sometimes they just need that little nudge. So other questions from our audience members? We can't leave without a question from Doug or Val, our esteemed ag teachers on the panel.
Well, I can tell you, Alyssa and I have talked since last spring, and she's coming to us in a very unique situation and time. We just converted from being a 2-male program to now a male-female program, with Mrs. Christy Good joining me back as one of my former students. Kurt moving to cooperative education, but still works with us every day, which has really changed in our last 3 or 4 months. Not only the pandemic, and we're still face to face, so everybody needs to know that. We still have kids remote though, but we are a face to face school still. So that adds another challenge to this kid's out today and the other kid's back tomorrow, and so we're playing that game a little bit. But I never thought after 30 years of doing this business that I'd be doing it that way, but we are, and we're doing pretty well. So we keep doing what we got to do. And, but we just made an announcement here this past week. It's kind of surprising in regards to Alyssa's presentation, that we dropped the bombshell to the whole group, the whole program, that Miss Landis will be joining us on January 19th. The seniors already knew that, and they're like, yeah, we're ready for her. But the younger kids are like, what? And we're like, yeah, you'll be fine. She's good. We'll be good. But Alyssa and I have worked together since last spring. She's visited with us virtually. She's been in person with us to our program. We believe that the program that we have in place is perfect for her. We believe we have the program that's going to meet all her needs as a total program at the 3-circle model. Coming off of a national star, 3-star gold rating here this past October. She's coming into us at a good time. We've been there for a long time. We kind of know what we're supposed to be doing. We know how to do it. We have great support from our administration. Our superintendent, for the folks that are on this panel today, sits on the Ag Ed Commission. So that's a pretty unique situation when your superintendent sits on that commission. So Central Columbia is an ag school. If you've ever been to Central Columbia, you know that in the hallway, the very first thing you see is Central Columbia FFA attire. You see a big bulletin board of all the activities that the ag students have done and the involvement in the FFA. So the first thing the freshmen usually tell us is, oh, this must be an ag school. That is correct. The other side of what Alyssa's going to see is she's going to see 66 transfer students from local schools that now come to Central Columbia. So schools from our immediate area, from Hazleton, Crestwood, Bloomsburg, Southern Columbia, Berwick, Benton, Millville, 66 of those students that we see, of the 200 some students we see a day, are from other schools. And that's very unique, and you would never know that. When you visit, you would never know that they're not true Blue Jays, but when they graduate, they are true Blue Jays. So that's a unique situation as well. And she'll see some challenges with that. But the good thing, I know she's concerned about classroom management. I guess what I can say is this: that'll never be an issue at Central Columbia. Our kids are driven. Our kids are good kids. She will not have that problem. I need her to take that off the table. She'll be good. We're there to support her. Not every day is going to be great. You're going to walk out of there some days going, why was I here? Other days you're going to like, wow, why isn't every day like that? Even after 30 years of doing this business and being involved my entire 51 years of my life in this business of ag education, it's a great experience. It's a great ride. It's a great career. So we're glad to have her. We're super excited to have her. And I hope she feels the same way.
Mr. Brown, we certainly appreciate your leadership and your assistance on this way and helping her in their journey. Any other questions or concerns from the panel? Val, looks like you're juggling toddlers there.
I'm so sorry. So my 7-year-old came in and said, "Mommy, Dylan's crying." So he's good. But no, I just wanted to say that I'm really excited that Alyssa's going to Central, because we tossed around a lot of ideas for a long time, but and she was really like set on staying closer to Selinsgrove, and so I'm glad that it worked out. So
we're going to convert her from a seal to a Blue Jay. That's what we're going to do.
good luck.
She has some attire. She already has some attire. She's got some.
I figured. I knew you'd take care of her.
Yeah, she knows it. Yep.
Again, we appreciate all your guys' leadership and advice and help with her journey. I'm still monitoring the chat and I don't see anything there, but we'll certainly entertain any other questions that are left of Alyssa. If not, you guys are welcome to hang on for another minute or so to give her last little congratulations and well wishes. But this will conclude the public portion of the presentation. We're now going to transition to the sort of closed portion where we talk to Alyssa on her unit plans and lesson plans with the faculty team here at Penn State. So again, if you could give her one last little bit of congratulations. She did an awesome job. We're super proud of Alyssa here at Penn State and all she's done over her career. We thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We do have one more, Miss Emily Schultz, which will start at 3, I think, Eastern. So here in about an hour or so, if you want to come back on to see our final of our 8 seniors this semester deliver our final presentation, you are welcome.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doc. See you, Dr. Ewing.
I'm muted. Yes, we'll see you later, Doug. Thanks for.
Okay.
Yep. Bye.